I want to introduce Sean Coogan of Welk Resort. Uh, Not a sales pitch for customer count, but Sean's company Resorts does use customer count for its surveys. But I'm sure anyone who is not particularly using that system will still get a lot out of his experience that he has had. He's vice president of resort operations at Welk Resort, and it's one of the most respected brands in the industry, as you all probably know. And Sean joined the Welk organization in 1988, worked his way up ranks till now he's oversees resorts located in California, Colorado, Missouri, New Mexico, Baja California.
My goal today is to kind of say, okay, as a user, how does Welk currently use the product to get some of that feedback that Lisa was talking about? So why don't we go to the first slide? And I thought I'd start with just describing a little bit about the Welk organization. Hopefully all of you out there know Lawrence Welk, a one and a two Wenda. If you don't, back in the 50s, he was quite the celebrity. He was on TV as a band leader. He was as much as a celebrity as Justin Bieber was in his time in our current stage. And back then, he was looking for opportunities, a smart businessman. And one of the things he looked at was finding development around California. So he searched high and low with some of his advisors and found a beautiful property in 1964 down in San Diego. It's actually in San Diego County in Escondido, California. And if you don't know, the Lawrence Welk Show is still on TV. It's one of the highest rated shows in PBS. I think it's 3, believe it or not. So every Saturday night, it's still showing. So if you don't know Lawrence, please take time and look him up, because a lot of people are surprised that he even is engaged in the whole timeshare or hospitality industry. So we are headquartered in San Marcos, California. Welk Resort was founded by musician, band leader, and television impresario Lawrence Welk, and is still primarily family owned. John Fredericks is Lawrence Welk's grandson. He's our current president and CEO, and a great human being, a lot like Lawrence. A lot of those values that we pride ourselves on at Welk, John shows. So the integrity and the honesty and the heart, great people to work for. And the Welk Resort has been a developer, seller, and manager of timeshare properties since 1985. So we brought the property back in 1964, but we got into timeshare in 1985 and have been ever since. Currently, Welk Resorts manages 12 vacation ownership associations consisting of more than 51,000 owners and 1,294 units. We have 8 resorts, like Sharon was mentioning. In California, we have the San Diego Resort, Tahoe. We have 2 up in Tahoe, Palm Springs, and we have Branson, Missouri, Cabo San Lucas, New Mexico, and then we recently opened a beautiful new property in the ski area of Breckenridge, Colorado, that opened in January of 2020. So that's who we are as kind of a brand, and we're very proud of it. We like to feel, which I'm sure most resorts feel, they're better than others on the customer service, and making sure we're providing those exceptional experiences and memories to cherish for a lifetime. So that's our goal at the end of the day. But as Lisa pointed out, to get those outcomes, data is king. Data is king everywhere, whether it's financial or, in our case, guest survey information. So we want to capture all that information that we're wanting these guests to provide for us to make it better for them the next time, and never stop, continuing to improve and use these online systems to get us some of the data we need. So let's look at the next slide, which talks about some of the way Welk is using some of the surveys to improve our process. And we're doing it our way. I'm sure it may be, and Lisa spoke on this, your structure may be a little different than ours. So I'm going to talk about the Welk current way, and understand we continue to tweak the system I used 15 years ago. One of the things I liked about customer count was the flexibility. Not only Lisa and the way she handles it, but the way I can say, okay, can we move this question over? Can we take these off? The flexibility provided us much more better results at the end of the day. So capture emails I put as the number one bullet, because at the end of the day, if we don't capture those emails, you're not going to have any people to survey, right? So a lot of times, whether it's in the check-in procs or the third-party sites that sometimes don't allow us to have their emails, we got to make sure we're capturing those emails to create the data that we need. We at Welk receive about 11,000 surveys annually. So we're sending out over 40,000. Currently, we rely on the exchange companies. We're affiliated with RCI currently, so we receive scores from them as well. So our surveys are based upon owners, renters, marketing, and then we have some platinum owners that I'll speak more about. But that's our survey we currently look at. We do receive a 25% response rate. Lisa mentioned that in her presentation. We were up in that 30 percentile, so we're trying to look at some of the reasons why we may be seeing a lower tick, because we want to get as many surveys as possible from each one of those segments, so that again, we're getting the information to allow us to perform better. Standard questions is the next bullet on here. Lisa talked about, the importance of crafting a sentence or a question that gets you the data. Don't merge two together. Make sure you're specific, but don't go too long. And I think over the years, that's one thing that we have been too long, I felt. So we have reduced it. I want to say we're in that 15 to 20 question area right now. And we continue to look at opportunities to streamline that a little bit more. What we do have with our surveys are drop downs. So as an example, we have the standard questions that everybody's dealing with. How was your reservation? What was the check-in like? Checkout, those type things, housekeeping, those type things that are universal. But then at some of our resorts, we have additional amenities. So we have the food and beverage, we have an activities department. Well, I want information on each one of those areas. So we have drop downs, so that 15 to 20 minute or 20 question air may into another 5 to 10 based upon your experience during your stay. But it's great information as a general manager, because then you could see how each one of those outlets are performing and use it as a tool to train. Customer dashboards, custom dashboards. So what's great again is with our current user, you can ask Lisa and the team to create the dashboards that you want to just do a quick pulse check each morning and look how your NPS, or if there's one question, maybe you're tracking the cleanliness in the units, that could just be on your dashboard. Your check-ins, because you may not be happy with the check-in progress, that could just be one question on there. So if you want to custom a dashboard that works for you or your general manager, you have that flexibility. Again, one of the benefits that customer account provides. With us, it is a post-survey, as Lisa mentioned, is an option. We use it 24 hours. If you check out, by the next day, you'll receive a survey from us. And what we do is we do an auto reminder. So 2 weeks after, if for some reason we haven't heard from you, we'll ping you again just to say, hey, don't forget, if you have an opportunity, to please fill out our survey and the importance of this survey. We have played around with different times to take the survey. We even done it during the stay, with the assumption that if we can fix any challenges that you have during your stay, it will result in a better survey result. We didn't see as great a response when we did that during guest stays, and we didn't necessarily see the lift. So we are now back to looking at just the 24-hour period seems to give us the best result. We do thank everybody. When everything is automated, it does allow you the ability to just thank those folks immediately. Some systems like Customer Account do have affiliations with the TripAdvisors of the world. So if you feel you want to tap into those simultaneously, that's available. We established the portfolio and resort goals. So why am I using this? Obviously, to provide a great tool to allow me to know customer service wise how I'm performing, but I also want to set those metrics. those KPIs for my team so that we're striving to exceed them on an annual basis or be able to speak to them if I have to present to the ownership and such. We do use it as a great tool. Two areas that we focus on. One is the NPS. It's the Net Promoter Score. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. And that's the one question that's a 0 to 10. How likely are you to recommend? In our case, how likely are you to recommend Welk? This is one that we've used for a number of years as our metric that all of the general managers, myself included, are striving to achieve a certain goal and beyond. And we're all over the place. We have huge high scores in Cabo San Lucas. And then we have some of our older properties like the desert, for example, that it's hard to keep some of those scores up. So we range between 40 to 50 and up through 90% on some of our NPS. Our portfolio goal is 55, and I'm happy to say we're at 54.5 for this year, even in a COVID environment. So I'm very proud of that, and we continue to work very hard. So if you're not familiar with that promoter score, you have 0 through 10. 0 through 6 is your demoters, and then 9 and 10 are your promoters, and then you have the passives, which are your 7 and 8s that don't count. You basically take the percentage of the 0 through 6 against your promoter, your 9s and 10s to get your net promoter score. So some people may say, well, 50, that's not good, but in net promoter world, it is a very strong score. So you want to have it above a 50% and higher. The other thing that makes us stand out, everybody has their own unique slogans or brandings. With Welk, we have welcome home. So we have collateral that says welcome home before you arrive. We should be saying welcome home each time you enter any one of the properties that Welk oversees. So those are things, again, in the survey that are specific questions that I, as the Vice President of Resort Operations, want to know and ensure that our teams are doing. So what we've done more recently, and again, I love the flexibility of the system, we've moved those because we actually asked all the standard questions, and then at the bottom, we had our Net Promoter Score and our welcome home questions on the survey. And we started thinking, hey, wouldn't it be best to get them up at the top when people are ready to take the survey, and hopefully we're getting a much stronger result score-wise. And we are seeing that. We're still analyzing the data. This is something we started just a few months ago, but we moved those questions. So basically, when you take a Welk survey right now, the thing you're going to be asked is your how likely are you to recommend the NPS and your welcome home during your stay. So it's a great tool. That's how we structure the survey, the Welk organization. I did want to tap on to something. The follow-up, Lisa was talking about some of the social impact in the world, and obviously we have a whole arm of creative and digital folks that handle the Welk social world. And the key there, like anything else, is quick response rate. So whether it's through a survey or the social, if you can turn that around, I mean, I'm sure we all have stories about that guest who was very upset for whatever reason. We got hold of them during their stay and we're able to turn it around and make it right. That's the goal at the end of the day. And when that happens, you really get strong loyalty and dedication to the product and brand. So if we can go on to the next slide, I'll speak a little bit about the segmentation and trends. So the segmentation is important for us. I mentioned this earlier of who we're surveying. We don't do a blanket survey to just anybody. We wanted to specify what's going into this pipeline, the survey pipeline. Prior to customer account, we didn't have this breakdown, the segmentation, and it's truly a valuable tool if I can make sure you're able to segment, because in our case, a platinum owner, that's their top tiered owner. They spent a lot of money to become a Welk owner that we want to make sure we're rolling out the red carpet and doing everything we can. Well, I want to know when they're giving us a survey, they're going to have a separate metric that we're going to shoot for that's going to be higher than some of these other segments. We do have our other owners. They're all important, let me say that, but platinum owners we definitely want to take good care of. So then we have our other owners that are in the Platinum program. And then we have marketing. Obviously, we're live sales, ongoing sales. So we want to make sure that the folks coming in to stay, whether it's a one night, a mini vac, a drive-in for the weekend, we want to make sure that marketing guest is segmented as well and see how that's trending. And then rental. We continue to grow. I'm sure, like many of you in the rental business, there's a lot of demand. We're running 95% occupancy right now, believe it or not, at all of our locations except Cabo, because of travel restrictions. But the rental market for us continues to grow, which is a great thing because it becomes a market also for our timeshare machine to potentially sell to. So we want that data. We want to know what they're seeing because a renter's eyes are much different than an owner's eyes. We find some of our surveys. So segmentation, recommend. The other thing is obviously using it for trends. The system gives you a number of ways to pull data and reporting. The verbal comments portion is something that I use with all the general managers and their staff as a tool to, again, get better, whether it's good news or bad news. So you may see things from a trend perspective. I have 4 examples here: IT, FF&E, amenities, and operational. Well, the IT, you may find that your phones aren't working. If you start getting a bunch of comments within a short period of time about, hey, I called and I couldn't get through, or I couldn't get a dial tone, or I don't have a phone possibly, those are things that can help you. Wi-Fi is another one that we all face. You never have enough bandwidth. So if we find a section of our resorts, because some of them are campus style, we can work with our partners, our IT partners, to find out where those best towers are or equipment to improve that Wi-Fi experience. The FF&E in the units, even though we're doing 6 to 8 years remodel refreshes, we want to make sure that that furniture is always looking fresh and clean. So if you see they're looking tired or dinged up or things broken, you'll be able to respond and take action just from the feedback that you're receiving from these surveys. Same thing with the amenities. So whether it's a refrigerator or dishwasher, maybe even some of the blenders, you might change a new coffee machine out into yours, and you want to find that they're not performing well, and you want to get a different brand. So that could also be out there for you to consider. And then operational would just be you as a general manager, or in my case, a VP, watching how the people are responding. Was the service with a smile? Did the team use the guest name? Were they rude, for example? Any of the bad stuff you want to get in there, as well as the good stuff. And then, Lisa talked about the big level engagement and then the experience stuff that are more department. You want to get those department questions in there. So the room functionality, cleanliness, and working order, those are 3 big questions that are important to me. The cleanliness obviously is key, especially right now with COVID. We want to make sure the cleanliness is superior, especially with all the promotion and marketing we're doing to let you know that we're doing extra steps. And then the working order. So the remotes, the fans, the faucets, some of those amenities, those are specific questions that we have metric scores, goals to meet, make sure we're taking action on if need be, if the score isn't showing positive results, or again, we're getting some of those comments. So the next slide I touched on. So you're collecting all this information. Now, how are you using that? One of the tools you can use it for is recognition and counseling. So obviously, we can't recognize folks enough, and we have an internal system called Spotlight. It's actually through Bonusly, that allows you to give points and merits to some of your fellow staff members. So we use the survey. If Sean gets a shout out from somebody in a survey, somebody may take that information and say, hey, Sean, great job, and give me some of these sparks, called spark points. So it's a great way to recognize people. Obviously, from a counseling, it's also a tool that you can use. If you see consistently that Johnny's rude to a guest and his check-ins take forever and he doesn't have the eye contact, then we need to make sure that Johnny knows about it, and Johnny might not be the best person on our team. So we want to use that as a tool to counsel the folks. So that's how we use it. Hopefully we're using it more for recognition. I feel like we do. I know we do. But it is a tool for both sides of the coin. And those are some of the shots of our team in the COVID world around the Welk world. So I thought I'd share that. The next slide talks about the company awareness and alignment. So as I mentioned, we're live sales, so we have sales and marketing that also are part of our property at each one of our properties, but San Diego property is the mothership. It's 714 keys, it's 450 acres. We have our large sales operation there. So those folks are taking their own surveys. So at the end of the day, I want to make sure that we're merging the two together. And Lisa talked about some are automated and some are written. They're still old school where it's written. They feel it works best in their process. So when I talk about on the bottom of this slide, the future survey integration opportunities, that's where I want to take some of these surveys that provide the results for those sales and marketing teams and find a way to interject those or to cross-reference those with some of our surveys. We're not pinging or touching that guest too many times. I think for all of us, it's important to know how many times that person is being touched along their journey, and you want to limit those. You want to make it a great experience because I want them to be owners forever and ever. So we feel this is an opportunity for us to find out what the guest is saying through that sales and marketing experience, it through our current surveys. We haven't figured that out yet, but we're expanding it. On the top of this slide, it talks about expand distribution. So these surveys are coming in. One of the benefits is I can send it out. It comes automatically, and I can send it out not only to our general managers and their managers, but if it's a sales and marketing leadership or some of their admins that need this documentation and information, we'll send those surveys out to those individuals as well. And then tracking, again, going back to some of the comments and what we're seeing from a sales, marketing, rentals. So we're taking those segments, but from a comment perspective, if somebody had a bad sales experience or were, told it was going to be such and such time and it took a lot longer, or they promised me that such and such and we didn't provide that. Well, we want to make sure we're responding quickly and getting those results and taking care of those guests. So again, we use this survey tool to not only make us stronger in operations, but across the portfolio, the business portfolio. So that's the company awareness and alignment that we still have some of those opportunities. The next slide, if we can jump over to that, we're getting close to the end, so hang in there. This was an internal audit. So we have the external surveys that we use where the post-stay, you tell us how your stay was, talk about some of the staff. As I mentioned, it's inspired our activities program, our food and beverage world. But then I want those results, right? So one way that I want those results is to make sure that our staff are providing those standards. And the beauty of a system like Customer Count, and I'm giving quite a few plugs, that wasn't intentional, but the beauty with Customer Count allows you this internal audit. So I have a system in place at all of our Welk properties that we call the core service standards. And we've identified 8 standards that are listed on the bottom of this slide. So it's greeting the guest within 30, so welcome home, acknowledge the guest in line if applicable, ensure your interaction is welcome, punctuated with smiling and eye contact, guest name, upsell if applicable, and then thank the guest and establish yourself as a future ally. So these are things that are, yes, part of our survey that we're tracking. They're part of mystery shops that we're also affiliated with. And we said, okay, not all of these fall under the front desk person versus the person that's doing landscape and our safety people, but the people over in the restaurant. We wanted everybody to play in this game. So that's where we created these 5 categories, which are on the top of this slide. So we said the face-to-face non-revenue, so that would be your front desk. You have your face-to-face revenue outlets, which is for your food and beverage and those type. Phone is just maybe your PBX or somebody who's an admin person. General interactions. So that's where you can audit your engineers, safety, landscaping, some of the folks that don't necessarily have guest interaction each and every day, like the front desk does, but we still want them smiling. We still want to recognize those guests. If you do know the guest name, put that into the format. And then approaching, entering villas. So that's primarily from a housekeeping perspective. We want to make sure we're auditing that. The beauty of this is, again, it's a short, quick little analysis where I task each one of the general managers to get so many surveys. We've established an allotment on a monthly basis and a weekly basis, and they're gathering that data. The beauty of this is it feeds directly into your surveys. So the thinking is, if I'm performing well with my internal audits, my core service standards, and the team are showing that they're using the guest names and welcome home from these audits, from outside people, outside of that department can do it. It's all Welk people that are doing the audits, but we're auditing the folks. And if they're scoring well, the thinking is that your surveys, your post guest surveys will also increase in their results. And it's just a great tool that's allowed to keep the focus and put metrics on to get a better outcome and performance-based results. So that's a little plug that I wanted to mention that's available to folks out there, or spin it your own way, or maybe do it a different way. But it's been shown great results for me in the Welk organization. So we are, David said, experts. I don't consider myself an expert necessarily, like Lisa, on surveys, but I have been around. I know guest service, and we continue to tweak and learn from, the feedback and from customer counts survey input that we're receiving. And the other thing is the reporting component that these systems provide, all of them. You can get as much information as you want. You can export it in different ways. Valuable information that's out there that, again, once you create that master structure, just continue to find ways to pull that data and push your teams towards success. So the next slide is my closing slide, where I just want to thank everybody involved, Resort Trade and Customer Counts and the contact for having me. And I do appreciate it. And there's Lawrence with his mask on. And, thank you for your time.
Sean, that was great. And I love your core service surveys and the 8 levels that you use to check. And it's so organized. And I believe, I've known Welk for a long time, and you guys run a great organization. You've certainly done credit and taken it a long way too, Sean.